land, and that's where it gets really tricky. So we could see Tillerson stay,
that's a great start
but
to the video,
how excruciating is this going to be through the end of the year at least, possibly longer? We know that current CIA Director Mike Pompeo is the White House's top pick to replace Tillerson, but not so sure, and not really sure if the White House is completely sure who will then replace Pompeo, Aaron.
All right, thank you very much, Michelle.
Inside of that, you have source packages, and then student info, and then in there you'll have studentinfo.java. What I need you to do is go to the S drive.
NBC News reported that you were frustrated with President Trump over the summer, and you called him a moron
Go to the S
during
drive.
the meeting at the Pentagon.
Now,
you've dismissed the question as petty.
Right here, there is student.
This is literally one of the most important relationships in the world, the one between you and President Trump. Is it true? Did you call him a moron?
Yeah, because I indicated earlier, I was asked about that. I'm not going to deal with that kind of petty stuff. I mean, this is a town that seems to relish gossip, rumor, innuendo, and they feed on it. They feed on one another in a very destructive way. I don't work that way. I don't deal that way, and I'm just not going to dignify the question. I call the president Mr. President. He and I have a very, very open, frank, and candid relationship. I see him often, speak to him nearly every day. I'm in the Oval Office a number of hours every week. We have a very open exchange of views on policy. At the end of the day, he makes decisions. I go out and do the best I can to execute those decisions successfully.
Ever since you called it petty, I've been thinking a lot about it. Because
everybody's got those two things.
I'm a reflective guy, and I understand the media makes mistakes, and the media always could improve. But here's the thing. Either you didn't say it, in which case there are a whole bunch of administration officials telling the press and telling the president that you did, and that's a serious problem. Or you did say it, and look, you're a serious guy. For you to say something like that suggests a real frustration with the commander-in-chief. So when you don't answer the question, it makes people think that you probably did say it. But either way, whatever happened, it is serious. So can you please clear it up?
Includes the following.
As I said, Jake, I'm not playing. These are the games of Washington. These are the destructive games of this town. They're not helpful to anyone. And so my position on it is, I'm not playing. I'm not playing. You want to make a game out of it? I'm not playing.
I'm not making a game out of it. I mean, I'm just trying to see clarity, because saying that if I said that my boss was a moron, that would be a serious issue. It wouldn't be. And my boss doesn't control nukes. I'm willing to move on, but I just want to be clear. You still haven't denied that you called him a moron. And, you know, a lot of people are going to watch this and think you probably said it.
I'm not dignifying the question with an answer.
Going to use the variable name. So if there's two students, say student 1 and student 2, what's their name variable called?
Please, first of all, tell us about your reporting, what specifically is causing the alarm over at the State Department.
Well, if this has been brewing for a long time, there's been long-standing concern about this hiring freeze that Secretary of State Tillerson is instituted as part of his redesign of the State Department. They've been ordered to make cuts to staff employees, and I think this is all brought to the surface by a letter by the president of the American Foreign Service Association, which warned that the career diplomats, the very senior career members of the Foreign Service, are leaving in droves. The senators are warning are undermining American diplomacy, and it's not just Senators McCain and Shaheen. You have Bob Corker, other people who have really been Tillerson allies, warning that this paints a very disturbing picture. And I think, the numbers, Wolf, don't necessarily signify a mass exodus, but I think it's fair to say that morale at the State Department has been at an all-time low. There's a feeling that Secretary Tillerson is very insular. He has a lot of distrust of the State Department. There are career people serving in top advisory positions, but there's kind of this widespread feeling that he doesn't appreciate and value their expertise. And these senior members of the career service are saying, listen, I'm not getting these signals that I should be leaving because there's no upward mobility for me.
We have set score. Okay, so this is how we set the score for a test, right? So int I, this is going to be the test number, and int score.
I think Secretary Tillerson, Secretary Mattis, and
the second is the test
Chief
score.
of Staff Kelly
I equals 1,
are
we set test 1 to that
those
score.
people that help
2,
separate our country from chaos.
And
I support them very much.
Why do we not do else
and
if
I don't know what he may have said after the briefing. I watch from, I mean, look, I see what's happening here. I deal with people throughout the administration.
If we were to add a fourth or a fifth or a sixth test,
from my perspective, is in an incredibly frustrating place
now,
where
get score is a method that does the exact same thing.
As I watch, and I can watch very closely on many occasions. I mean, he ends up not being supported in the way that I would hope a Secretary of State would be supported. I think he's in a very trying situation, trying to solve many of the world's problems a lot of times without the kind of support and help that I'd like to see him have.
Think about resigning at any point in time?
I can't get into that.
You say that Tillerson, Mattis, and Kelly are separating this country from chaos. Do you mean from the president's chaos?
Well, it's just
because there's 3 test scores. That's how you find the average.
They work very well together to make sure that the policies we put forth around the world
if we were to add a 4th test, we'd have to change that.
Sound and coherent. There are other people
then we have get high score
within the administration.
So now we're figuring out the high score. So we have a high score method. And then here's the cool one. This is 2-string. This is a 2-string method. This is kind of like default when we're doing our switch cases. Okay, so what I want you guys to do,
I'm very honored by his comments. It was fake news. It was a totally phony story. Thank you very much. It was made up. It was made up by NBC. They just made it up. Thank you all. Thank you. Total confidence in Rex. I have total confidence. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, here's our student info. And we are going to write a main program that accesses the student.java class.
To address a few specifics that have been erroneously reported this morning.
Use a scanner, so let's go ahead.
The Vice President has never had to persuade me to remain as Secretary of State because I have never considered leaving this post. I value the friendship and the counsel of the Vice President, and I admire his leadership within President Trump's administration to address the many important agendas of President Trump, both from a foreign policy perspective and a domestic objective. Let me tell you what I've learned about this president, whom I did not know before taking this office. He loves his country. He puts Americans and America first. He's smart. He demands results wherever he goes, and he holds those around him accountable for whether they've done the job he's asked them to do. I have learned that there are some who try to sow dissension to advance their own agenda by tearing others apart in an effort to undermine President Trump's own agenda. I do not, and I will not operate that way. And the same applies to everyone on my team here at the State Department.
So if we do that, if we were to declare a student, it's exactly like we're
I think it's the most important element of the article is to reaffirm my commitment to this role that President Trump's asked me to serve and to dispel with this notion that I have ever considered leaving. I have answered that question repeatedly. For some reason, it continues to be misreported. There's never been a consideration in my mind to leave. I serve at the appointment of the President, and I'm here for as long as the President feels I can be useful to achieving his objectives.
Could you address the main headline of this story that you called the President a moron, and if not, where do you think these reports are?
I'm not going to deal with petty stuff like that. I mean, this is what I don't understand about Washington. Again, I'm not from this place. But the places I come from, we don't deal with that kind of petty nonsense. And it is intended to do nothing but divide people. And I'm just not going to be part of this effort to divide this administration.
It freaks out, right? It's not going to let us do that. Cancel by user, because that was me. Because we have this error.
You lack sufficient information. You haven't been read in with respect to classified material, correct?
That is correct. Senator, I've had no unclassified briefings because I've not received my clearance yet. I'm not in a position to be able to make that determination. I know there's additional classified information that might inform my those are very, very serious charges to make, and I would want to have much more information before reaching a conclusion. I do not have sufficient information to make that claim. I would have to have more information, and there is a body of record in the public domain. I'm sure there's a body of record in the classified domain. I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge. I have no direct knowledge of that. And I think in order to deal with a serious question like this,
Tillerson, what's happening at Aleppo is in the public domain. The videos and the pictures are there.
Fully informed before advising the president. And I'm sure there's a large body of information that I've never seen that's in the classified realm. I don't have sufficient information to make that type of a serious conclusion. Not to my knowledge. If it's not to my knowledge, it isn't going to change the way I'm negotiating with them. That's a question that others will have to address, Senator.
Okay. So now we have all these cool methods that we can run from our student.java file. So one of them is set name. So if we go s1 dot, look what happens. So we have all of these awesome methods that we've written. We've written a bunch of custom methods.
I've worked with Mike Pompeo now for quite some time. Tremendous energy, tremendous intellect. We're always on the same wavelength. The relationship has been very good, and that's what I need as Secretary of State. I wish Rex Tillerson well. Gina, by the way, who I know very well, who I've worked very closely, will be the first woman director of the CIA. She's an outstanding person who also I have gotten to know very well. So I've gotten to know a lot of people very well over the last year. And I'm really at a point where we're getting very close to having the cabinet and other things that I want. But I think Mike Pompeo will be a truly great Secretary of State. I have total confidence in him. And as far as Rex Tillerson is concerned, I very much appreciate his commitment and his service, and I wish him well. He's a good man.
S1.set name. Let's call our first student.
Rex and I have been talking about this for a long time. We got along actually quite well, but we disagreed on things. When you look at the Iran deal, I think it's terrible. I guess it was okay. I wanted to either break it or do something, and he felt a little bit differently. So we were not really thinking the same. With Mike Pompeo, we have a very similar thought process. I think it's going to go very well. Rex is a very good man. I like Rex a lot. I really appreciate his commitment and his service. And I'll be speaking to Rex over a long period of time. I can't hear you.
And then finally...
no, I really didn't discuss it very much with him, honestly. I made that decision by myself. Rex wasn't, as you know, in this country.
So now
I made the North Korea decision with consultation from many people, but I made that decision by myself. I actually got along well with Rex, but really it was a different mindset. It was a different thinking. What? Say it again. I respect his intellect. I respect the process that we've all gone through together. We have a very good relationship for whatever reason, chemistry, whatever it is. Why do people get along? I've always, right from the beginning, from day one, I've gotten along well with Mike Pompeo. And frankly, I get along well with Rex, too. And, you know, I wish Rex a lot of good things. I think he's going to do, I think he's going to be very happy. I think Rex will be much happier now. But I really appreciate his service. But with Mike, we've had a very good chemistry right from the beginning.
Oh, yeah, we have to do that.
We understand, Abby, that the Secretary of State was informed of this on Friday.
That's right, John. Tillerson was informed while he was traveling in Africa. According to sources, he was told by the president that the president wanted him gone, and that coincided around the same time that we were learning that there were going to be negotiations or potentially a meeting with North Korea. A senior administration official telling CNN's Boris Sanchez that the president felt like with the North Korea negotiations on the horizon, it was a good time for a transition. Now, this Tillerson departure is something that we have been waiting for and perhaps expecting for several weeks now. Tillerson had told people that he might be only staying in the administration for about a year, and we were coming well up on that timeline. And beyond that, we know that there were persistent tensions between the president and his Secretary of State. They did not see eye to eye on a lot of issues, both on temperament and on policy. And Tillerson, even as recently as the last 24 hours, it was contradicting the White House when it comes to the issue of Russia. So we're seeing the president replace him with Mike Pompeo, the current CIA director, someone who has been has briefed the president in person virtually every day, in part because the president likes the way he is briefed by Pompeo. There's a lot of trust in that relationship, and in turn, Pompeo also has a lot of respect on the Hill. I think this partnership between the president and Pompeo is one that has only grown in the last several months, and so it seems very much a natural transition here.
Name, and let's give it a name of. Okay.
We had a very successful, in my view, year of 2017, pivoting our policies and helping our partners understand those policies. Okay. We're now into the implementation and execution against those policies. I think we're going to have a very productive 2018. Again, the State Department gets stronger every day, understanding what we're trying to do, and I look forward to having a very, very successful 2018.
For the whole year.
I intend to be here for the whole year.
Has the president given you any indication that you won't be around for a while?
None.
None whatsoever?
None whatsoever.
So we have a problem, right? Okay, so what the crap? So Ron Burgundy.
Let me tell you what I've learned about this president, whom I did not know before taking this office.
S1, so S2 should still be Ron Burgundy, right? Okay, so that's not really true. How do I pause the recording? It escaped us.